Hey there, it's Daniel from WP103. It's the second week of May and we have 8 new plugins to check out. Let's go! First plugin on our list is PDFDraft. This gives you a drag and drop editor where you can create PDFs with your WordPress content. You can offer it to download then, or you can embed it on your site. Let's have a look. After installation, we got a new menu item here. We jump into the settings first. Here we can set up a few things, like if you want to enable it for posts and pages, that there is a download button. We can also customize the text a little bit, and we can change the file name pattern. In the home menu we get this new screen, and generally speaking I don't like that when a plugin takes over the whole admin screen. It just adds another click to go back then to the dashboard. So not a huge fan. In the home tab you see now the few templates, or you can build something from scratch. In the projects you have the designs you already created. You can see if they published or not, and exit brings you back to the dashboard. This is then the editor main screen. Here we can insert all the texts and the graphics, whatever we want. And we can also add dynamic content, and I think here it's where it's really shining. So we just go to elements, we say then WP data fields, we drag that in. Every field is basically drag and drop. This is a normal text field that is not dynamic. Not interesting for us right now, so let's delete that somehow. There we go. So if we have this WP data fields with a /, we got placeholders here. So we have title, content, etc, etc. So we can, for example, add the site logo. And this is a little bit weird at first because you don't really have a preview here now of the site logo. And what we can do is, if we go on more settings, we can specify the size of the logo then. So let's say 30, and this should give us the site logo then down here. Let's give it a try. We hit preview, and we get a preview here of the site logo, which is not the right site logo anyhow. So the preview just fills it in with some dummy text. But we want to see how it deals with the real text, so let's go back. I created a page here where you can see what kind of options we have now. We can either embed the PDF, so it gets just displayed on the page itself, or we can offer it as a download button. In both cases we have the option that we can select a project here, and the embed block gives us also the option to define a width and height. And that's how it looks like in the front end. We have the download button here. Once clicked, we get this. And once embedded, we can see we have the thing here. For some reason, the site logo doesn't really work here. So PDFDraft is in version 1.0. It is free and available in English only. It does not have a pro version at the moment. What I like about the plugin is that it is quite easy to use the editor. You can drag and drop, resize and position the elements as you like, and I can see it is really great for like creating certificates or things like that. What I didn't like about the plugin was that it takes over the admin screen completely. And the navigation is not that straightforward. For example, if you go on home, why does it assume that you want to create a new template? Why does it not show you the existing templates? That's a little bit confusing to me. And also, as you can see, here we have a field that is called a shape field. We can also change its settings. For some reason we cannot change the background color, and we can change the border radius. That all works, but under elements there is no such element. There is no shape element, and also you can only use one image field for some reason. If you drag an image here, then you cannot add another one. Why not? So there are some design choices that just don't make sense, and you don't have any feedback why you cannot add more than one pictures, for example. But other than that, it has very fast and responsive support, and it has useful hooks for developers. Therefore, I give this plugin a rating of 4.6. Next up is GT Table Block. This basically adds a sticky header to your tables. Let's have a look. Once installed, we don't really see anything, but it adds a new option in the table block. So if we have a table here, then we have a new option here, Enhance Table, and we can say if we want to have a sticky header or not. So if we scroll down, you can see the header stays then in place. It's very nice that this also works in the backend. And we can define an offset. So if we have a sticky navigation, for example, we can move the whole thing a little bit down so it's not interfering with that. And that's how it looks like in the front end. Pretty straightforward. The plugins version is currently 0.1.1. It is free and available in English, and there is no pro version. What I like about the plugin is it integrates very well. It also has a offset option that's quite nice. It is very lightweight and it makes long tables easier to read. What I didn't like about the plugin is it basically does not more than just like 2-3 lines of CSS. At its current state, there's really not a lot it has to offer. If you don't want to touch CSS at all, then go for it. But if you know a little bit CSS, you can figure that out pretty easily, and then you don't need any plugin. Therefore, I give this one a rating of 4.3. Next up is Noted Visual Feedback. This helps you to create feedback from your client about changes you have to make on the website. Upon installation, we get a new menu item, Noted Visual Feedback here. And as you can see, I added a few notes called pins. Here we have then the recent activities. Next up, we have then the pages on which the feedback was made. And a side note here, it seems not to work very well if you install WordPress in a subfolder. Also, according to the website, the free version only includes the notes for the home page and not for any sub pages. But that seems not to really work. It's a little bit weird. The feedback lists then the pins again. So you have them basically in the dashboard under recent, you have them in the pages, and you have them in the feedback almost the same. The setting gives you a few options about the overlay visibility, about brand colors. Also, you can reset the walkthrough if you want to have the guided tour at the beginning again, which is quite nice. It explains how to use the tool. Under permission, you can define who should have access to this tool and who can do what. And I think that's really nice that you can define roles that can only view and others can also resolve or export or manage. So that's pretty neat. You can say if you want to have email notification when feedback is made, and there are some statistics and the option to delete all data, which is always very appreciated. If you click on Open Review tool, then you get redirected to the homepage. And as you can see, I added some feedback already. And what I noticed that it just jumps to a random point and not really, like here you can see that's number 2, but if I click on it, it goes all the way on the top, so this somehow doesn't really work. We have the annotate view where we can select a element and then make a feedback. For example, the view gives us just like the dots, which are sometimes missing. I just made a comment here and it's somehow not there. Also, you can change the view to mobile to leave your comments on the mobile view. On the right hand side, you can then see all the comments. You can see which one are resolved, currently none, open or all. Let's resolve that. And then we can see it just gets moved to the done pile. We can also share, which somehow doesn't work. And we can change between element selector, where we can select an element, or cursor. But somehow my understanding would be that the cursor allows you to make like a comment anywhere, but it just like restores the regular cursor function. And that's pretty much about it for that plugin. The tested version was 1.0.5. It is available in English. There is a pro version if you want to get feedback on more pages than just the homepage. What I liked about the plugin is it is quite easy to use. There is a guided tour for beginners. We have a good overview of the notes, feedbacks with the different views. We can download everything as a CSV file, and also that you can set the permission for different user roles. What I didn't like about the plugin is that the position of the elements seems to be wrong, or like the scrolling I showed you is just not not working, like the dot is just at the wrong point, not where you set it actually. And it seems not to work great if you install WordPress in a subfolder, and that the free version is limited to the homepage only and also only to 25 pins. I give this plugin a rating of 4.1. Our next plugin is 16 DESA Table Cell Extras. It is a lightweight plugin that extends the formatting of your tables. Let's check it out. After installation, it once again doesn't change anything in the admin menu, which is very nice because it's just not needed. What it does actually, it adds some options in the table block under More. You can see we have quite a few new options here. We have a list, either numbered list or bullet list. We have a divider that looks like that. We have a raw spacing on the bottom, raw spacing on the top that you can customize then, and then we can change how many lines. You cannot have more than 2 lines or fewer than 0.1 line. So it is a little bit limiting, but it gives you the option to add some spacing. Then we have text small, text medium, and text large. And that's basically it. In the front end, it looks exactly the same as in the back end. If we're using our dev tools to inspect, we can see that these are actually not lists. They just look like lists, and they're then styled with CSS. This is a little bit a problem from an accessibility standpoint, because for screen readers, this is then not a list, so it won't announce it as a list. And also if a machine reads your website, it doesn't see it as a list. So if it is important that it is an actual list, then you should not use that. But if it's just for styling, just for the visual representation, then I guess it's fine. So I tested version 1.2.4. It is free, there is no pro version, and it's available in English and Japanese. What I liked about the plugin is it integrates very well into the core block. It doesn't make its own block, and it gives you helpful styling options. And it is small and light. What I didn't like about this was the accessibility thing I talked before. So if it is important that these elements are actually the proper HTML elements they should be, then you should probably not use that. But to be fair, this is a technical limitation of the core table block and cannot really be solved unless you make a custom block, and this was not what the developer wanted, so it's okay. But all in all, there is not a lot to complain, so I give this plugin a rating of 4.9. Desktop mode just delivers what the name promises. It transforms your WordPress admin into a desktop. After installation, we have this switch to desktop mode, and if we do that, we're getting a desktop, and I think this is really cool. It looks really nice and it feels very smooth, and the way it works, it just opens things in new windows. So if we go, for example, on the posts, it opens it in a new window that we can then maximize like that. You can close it again. And also it got a little bit redesigned here. As you can see, this side looks a little bit different than your standard posts page. We just open this Hello World page and nothing happens because it gets opened behind it. That seems to be a little bug here. It is still there, but it's just like if you maximize that screen, then everything will be opened in the back. So let's add here a new category and also a few tags. And it just works as you expect it to work. Let's close that again and we go back to our posts, because there is this category view that shows us now uncategorized. We have 4. We might need to refresh that because, yeah, let's close that. Let's open it again. And now we can see we have uncategorized and test. So it's really nice to see these little bubbles, and when you click on it, you can then see which pages are actually connected to this category. Same for the tags. There it looks a little bit different, but it works in a similar way. By clicking on it, you get then the pages which have this tag. You can also rename it here directly. So that's really neat. Apart from the posts, also the pages got a visual overhaul. It looks basically the same as the pages, gives you some additional information here, as well as the plugin screen, and I think that's really nice, as well as the user screen. Other windows, they look exactly the same like before, like the tools, for example, they just have the content rendered within this window then. If you want to customize your desktop furthermore, then a right click gives you the OS settings, where you can change the wallpaper. We have, for example, this animated WordPress logo, which is pretty cool. You can upload your own image, you can change the accent color, let's go for orange here. You can change like how the desktop layout should be, and the dock size. Let's make a large dock, and you can see that this icon gets then bigger or smaller. There's some AI integrations. We can also define which apps and icons should be shown where, and here you can basically also put that then on the desktop. Let's say we want to have the dashboard also on the desktop, then it's here. We can toggle certain features on and off. There's some extended options, components library, where we can see all the components that were added and their status. File association, that's currently, you cannot really do anything here, but I can see some potential here of opening then certain files in a different app or window, or I'm really excited what they're gonna do with that. And the about page gives you some information about this plugin. Another thing I would like to show you is this content graph that gives you this little dots here, and by clicking on it you get all kinds of information, who's the author, and also different revisions. Let's see here, that's the author now, then we have the category, and you can see the different revisions when they were made by whom. So that's pretty cool. You also get here like a little overview, and we can just jump to the post directly and preview the front end in the back end. Desktop mode is currently in version 0.8.4. It is free and available in English. There is no pro version. What I like about the plugins is just the visuals. It looks really awesome, and I think it transforms the whole admin experience, and it is really great for multitasking. You can have multiple windows and you can switch between them, and also the new designs of the pages, post, users and plugins is really nice. I like the content graph that visualizes the whole content on your website really nicely. There are also many options to customize your experience, and it is very developer friendly. What I didn't like about the plugin is there are here and there some bugs, like for example once there was the submenu of a plugin was not shown in the top bar, so I couldn't really use that and I had to switch to the classic WP admin. And also it loads 2.5 megabyte of data and roughly 50 requests, which is quite a lot, but given what you get in return, like the whole experience, it runs quite smoothly. So once it's loaded, it runs pretty good. So I think this plugin deserves a 4.9. Number 6 is Popup Builder by IndieTech. Since I like the desktop mode so much, we just stay in that mode. I also tested the plugin without the desktop mode and it also works good. So we activated the IndieTech Popup Builder, and it adds a new icon, pop-ups here. Let's open that. And we can see we have a pop-up created already. In the pop-up panel here, we have then different options like we're used to. We can change the publish date. We can change the trigger from immediate to time delayed. I usually use the time delay, so let's do that. 2 seconds is fine. We can then change the behavior, what should happen if you click outside. We can disable the page scroll when it's open, and we can define if we want to set the cookie to close. And I recommend to set this always to set cookie on close, because otherwise the pop-up will come every time. It depends. If you set to time delay, for example, then on every site it will come then after 2 seconds, which is pretty annoying. So make sure you set that cookie, and you can define when the cookie should be set exactly. By the way, the cookie makes sure that the pop-up is not showing again after it was shown already. you can say how many days this cookie should be valid. So here it will be shown again after 365 days. If you use Gravity forms, you can also set the cookie when the form is submitted. You can change the position. Let's put it on the center left. We can define a max width. That's only a pixel value, so you cannot have dynamic values here. And we can change the overlay opacity. So let's put that to 9, so it gets a little bit darker. And we can also define where the close button should be. So you can see already there are a lot of options to customize. There are some Google Analytics events, and then you can tell where the pop-up should be displayed. I just leave it for all, but you can have it on a specific site or just on the home page or just on specific URL prefixes. We leave it on all. We can exclude some IDs or we can exclude some URL prefixes. And after 2 seconds we get this overlay here, and oh, it looks okay, this is not great. Let's change the opacity here just a little bit. Yeah, that looks better now. If your opacity is all the way up, so it gets really dark like that, make sure that it works with all your colors that you have. Apart from the pop-ups overview in the backend, we have also add new pop-up which just makes a new pop-up. And that's basically what this plugin has to offer. So the IndieTech pop-up builder is in 1.2.1 at the moment. It's a free plugin and available in English only. There is no pro version. What I like about the plugin is it has many settings to customize the experience. It has analytics tracking, and also it is very lightweight. What I didn't like about the plugin was that the trigger exit intent doesn't work on Firefox for some reason. It works on Chrome. The keyboard focus is sometimes a little bit hard to see. It depends on your color combination. It would be a little bit better if it would have the same behavior as the native button in WordPress, that it just has this blue outline when it's focused with the keyboard. And you cannot change the overlay color to something else than black or just dark. But all in all, I think it's one of the better pop-up solutions, so I give it a rating of 4.9. Now it is getting tasty with Flavor, a restaurant menu plugin. For some reason we cannot see the submenus here in the desktop mode, so let's switch back to the classic. So if you click on the menu, we're getting the menu overviews. I have 2 items here currently, a hamburger and a pizza. Looking at the menu, we have add new menu item that just adds a new menu item, and it doesn't use the Gutenberg editor. Here we can add a description which is never shown anywhere, so only the subtitle and the price is basically what we need to add here. We can see what we're missing if we don't have the pro version, so all the nutrient information and also allergic information is missing. We can change the sort order in the menu, and we can define a featured image. Also we can choose a category. The categories you can see in the category menu. We have currently 2. This works like every other taxonomy in WordPress. Then we can sort the categories. The batches is a pro version, gives you a little badge on the top of the cart. We have custom themes, which is also pro version. Typography, also pro. Guest reviews, also pro. You see a theme here. And also table stand, QR code, also pro, as well as import export. In the front end it looks like that. This design here works best for dark designs, so as you can see our menu is not really readable here, and then it just gives you these cards with a picture or not if you don't have one, and with this little text here, as well as the price about this plugin. You can sort by category here. If you hover over, then it just like gives this effect, but it doesn't do anything. You cannot click it or get more information, so it's a little bit misleading. I don't know if it does that. You should be able to do something like interactive with it, click on it or so, but it doesn't. The tested version was 1.5.5 of the free version. It has a pro version and it is available in English. What I like about the plugin is it has a lifetime payment option in the pro version, so if you buy it once and then you have it forever. The rest of the things I liked come also with a downside at the same time. It has an elegant design, but it works really only for dark designs, and it kind of dictates a little bit how the rest of your website should look like, because you cannot really change the design in any way in the free version. And it has a lot of options in the pro version. There is really not a lot in the free version itself, so you see more of what you're missing than what you're actually getting. That being said, what I didn't like about the plugin is 6 out of 10 submenu items are pro only, so it's just basically advertisement for the pro version. So the free version does not really have a lot of useful things to use. You could rebuild that in the Gutenberg or in another page builder quite easily, and you have the same look and feel without the baggage of having a plugin installed. Also, as I said before, the hover effect implies that there is some kind of an action you can take when there is not. Also, performance-wise, it is quite big for what it's actually offering, and also the scripts in the front end could be minified to enhance performance. So overall, it's really not a good plugin if you're not planning on using the pro version. If you plan on using the pro version, you could give it a shot, because you have a lot of customization options. Then you can change the style and the colors and everything. But the free version gets a 2.9. Last but not least is GuestDock. This plugin allows you to create an access for guest authors. After activation, you get this GuestDock management screen where you can invite guests and change a few settings. So we have the invite screen where you can just enter an email, and this email then contains a link that is valid for 7 days or 3 days or whatever you want to set here. And you can also change how many posts this person should be able to make. So let's invite somebody here. Now here we see the current guests, and we can change the settings here on the fly. Then under settings itself, we can change some of the introduction to the post text. We just leave that for now. We can change the minimum and maximum word count. That's pretty cool that you can define, hey, this post should be a certain length. You can toggle the required elements like featured image and also excerpt, and we can even specify certain categories the user should be allowed to use or not. We have some anti-spam and link protection settings, and also media and server protection by defining the maximum upload size. Under mail, we can customize what the text should be for the email that gets sent. We have the request access email, that's then later for the form. Then we have the invite email that gets sent if you invite a guest, and some editorial workflow emails, all customizable. That's pretty cool. In the shortcode, we have one shortcode at the moment, which is the guestbook request form. And in help, we get a little documentation on how to use the plugin. So we got the email here with the information about when it's gonna expire and also how many posts we can make. If we click on the email, we have to define our password for a new user. So we just go with that. And then we get greeted by this notification here, where we can see the instructions to post that we defined earlier. And then we can access the media library and the posts. We can see that there are no media items at the moment. You only see your own. If we go to the posts, we have our instructions again, and we can see here now an error. That would be maybe better as a warning, but maybe it's less visible then. Anyhow, about how many words we should have and what is required. So let's make a quick post. So we have a little bit of limited selection of blocks we can use, and we cannot really define which blocks should be available. So that's a little bit the downside. If you compare that to a regular user, we have way more blocks available than the guest author has. And currently there is no way of changing this behavior, at least not in the settings menu. So I added some text now, so only the featured image is missing. So as you can see, we got also an error because the picture is too big. Okay, let's try it again. And now with a smaller image, it worked perfectly. And now we also get rid of this message, and now we can submit for review. We cannot publish a post, we can just submit it for review. Switching back to the other account, we can see that our new guest user made one post already, one draft. If we go to the posts, we can see, okay, there is our draft, and then we can preview it. If everything is okay, we can then just publish it. This is the registration form where they can submit their request to become a guest author. GuestDock is in version 1.0.0. It is a free plugin and available in English. There is no pro version. And what I really like about this plugin is it is very well integrated and very thoughtful designed. I feel like everything makes sense and there is a high focus on like containing the guest author to just the things he should be able to do. Also, there's a form for guest sign-ups, which is pretty nice, and things that you can limit the length of the post or like require a certain length of the post, and also to require a featured image, etc. What I didn't like about the plugin is that you cannot really customize this registration form. It is hard-coded into the plugin, so there is no option and no filter that you could use to change that. And there are also no hooks for developers in general, so which is a little bit a missed opportunity, but I think it has a lot of potential, and therefore I give this plugin a rating of 4.6. And those are all the plugins in the second half of May 2026. Which plugin did you like the most? Which one are you going to install and which one you don't like? Let me know in the comments below, and I catch you in the next one.